Good afternoon and welcome back, listeners.
On today's episode of Fighting for Rights, we will be discussing transgender rights.
For those who don't know us, we're your hosts, Gabby,
Willow,
and Stephanie.
Before we get into this topic, we wanted to give you guys a brief overview.
Many individuals who are transitioning or who have already transitioned described it as if they were not in their own body.
In the process of transitioning, there's no right or wrong way. It's all about what feels best for you. In this process, it can either be a long or short journey, such as just changing your name, pronouns, and the way one dresses.
Or if an individual feels as if that is not enough, there are many types of surgeries one can have. For example, top and bottom surgery, laryngoplasty, etc.
One thing that the transgender community does go through together is that they must accept themselves internally.
Trans people have become more visible, but we need to increase our understanding for their community because at the end of the day, we're all human.
According to the Human Rights Campaign, half a decade ago, only 1/4 of people supported trans rights. But in 2019, it had increased by 62%. This increase of support is due to social media, especially since social media is a gateway for publicity for topics many are unaware of.
Although this is not enough, trans people still face hate for wanting to show their identity. Many may fear that they won't be accepted, typically by family and friends. Even if it might seem wrong, family, friends, and even coworkers can change their opinions of someone and reject them due to their own beliefs.
Some even have an old mindset that being transgender means you're mentally ill. Because of this, many transgender people can face bullying, harassment, and even be targeted for serious acts of violence.
For example, the Human Rights Campaign has also stated that in 2020, 27 trans people were murdered due to their identity. Not only do they deal with violence, but they also often get discriminated against.
For instance, numerous transgenders fear voting and often do not participate in elections because they fear that they will get targeted at election polls. They deserve rights, but they are often discriminated against because they do not have enough protections, such as from the government.
Trans rights don't always have a positive outcome in the government, given the fact that many politicians simply don't take it seriously.
Going as far as comparing parents supporting children exploring their identity to those who help with medically assisted suicide. This hostile rhetoric towards trans identities can cause those who identify as transgender less likely to speak out.
Rumba Yambu has stated, "I feel like that's what they are trying to do, to keep us from coming and exercising this right we have." Yambu is an executive director of Intranscative, which is an advocacy support group for transgender people in Arkansas.
This past year, 150 bills targeting transgenders have been introduced. Although some have been blocked by judges, many have passed. According to the blogs from NPR, this can cause gender-affirming care to become quite hard to find it for those who need it.
Even though there's already a harsh environment for trans people, the constant harassment towards the few medical professionals and facilities that do, in fact, provide gender-affirming care makes it even more difficult for transgender people to exist peacefully and equally like their peers in a healthcare environment.
Trans people constantly have people questioning their identity. One example of the government questioning trans identity is during the testifying of the SB 199 bill, where Herzog came to the Capitol to express her concerns of this unpatriotic bill, which, quoting Herzog, casts doubts on their own health and research institutions, who have worked through healthcare fields to improve the lives of Americans.
After she had brought her concerns to their attention, Senator Matt McKee asked a follow-up question being, "Are you transgender?" in which she responded, "Yes." Immediately after, McKee stated, "Do you have a penis?" This was completely uncalled for and shows exactly what little respect many politicians have for transgender people.
While much more needs to be done, there have been some advancements in the government for transgender people's benefit.
Many U.S. states have gender-affirming care bans, while only 12 have transgender healthcare shields laws. According to the Movement Advancement Project, these laws allow people to receive gender-affirming care by going to the state with these laws in place without any consequences.
When one's identity is at stake, and this is the only inconvenient option they have, they'll go to great lengths to do so, but for no reason should they have to. In 2019, the Equality Act was passed, which prohibited discrimination solely based on sexual orientation and gender identity.
This act can go a long way in benefiting transgender people because they are protected under the law to provide them with stable employment and get services that all others do without question.
According to the National Center of Transgender Equality, the Equality Act allows transgender people the right to access bathrooms aligned with the gender they identify with. This is such a big victory for the transgender community, but it shouldn't have to be.
Providing transgender people with the same rights as anyone else and treating them as such is just basic human decency, but doesn't always happen.
While we have seen developments legally and socially, there's always room for more.
Now, to wrap it all up, we'd like to mention some ways to help.
You can visit websites like change.org to sign petitions that support the transgender community. Having those who are allies and those who are transgender speak on this topic increase the likelihood of change. Thank you for listening, and make sure you tune in for next week's episode.